Hi, my name is Dan Devlin. Normally we do our show, and we'll use this information for our show, for the Detective Dan Devlin Show, Honorable People, Honorable Nation. The message that I'm going to deliver today is about what's happening in the political environment. It seems like the vast majority of people are not happy with either of the candidates, and because of that, the question is, who do I vote for? Oftentimes people say, well, I'm in a position where I have to vote for the lesser of two evils. That's not a very good choice. But yet that looks to be the position that many people are in today. When we stop and we think about it, why don't we have better candidates? Oftentimes it's because of the political system. The boards of elections across the United States, the people who are in charge of making rules and regulations that allow a person to run for office, all of those things oftentimes make it difficult for someone to run. Well, there is a way that people can do it, and it's probably the fairest way that exists, and that way is as a write-in candidate. It's essential for anyone who runs for a position like that to find a way to get to you in order to show you why a particular person is qualified and why they would be the best person to run for the presidency. You may have heard me before talk about how important it is to have a firm foundation. And I don't think many of the people here in the United States actually know what the foundation of the United States really is. From a standpoint of documents, we have the Declaration of Independence, of course, and then we have the United States Constitution. This happens to be a pocket constitution, and I'd encourage everyone to get one. And spend some time. You don't have to read it all at once. But many of us have taken an oath to support and defend this Constitution, and we don't really know what's in it. And I want you to know that this Constitution is really based very much on what is in this book. And this is the Holy Bible. Now, the people who founded this nation, they didn't just go by the Bible. They looked at many things. But this is very much a part of the foundation of what the United States is about. And for people to destroy the United States, they have to destroy a belief on the part of the people in Scripture, in the Bible, and in the Constitution itself. The reason that this is all so important is because, as I mentioned, the people who are running now, most people are dissatisfied with. So what I've chosen to do is use all the available resources possible, including community television and the internet, in order to get various messages across to you so you can determine who is the best qualified for the presidency of the United States. And yes, you might have guessed by now, I am running, and I am announcing here that I am running for the presidency of the United States. Now, how bold is that someone would think that they're qualified to do it? You know, someone has to fill these positions. And if we don't step forward, if we believe that we could do a better job than others, then maybe we're not the responsible people. And so therefore, I'm going to give you another choice, and I want you to do what you need to do, which is just simply listen to what I have to say. And over the next month and a half, we will provide you with information on a number of topics that you should be concerned about so that you can make a decision and simply determine, is this individual serious? Does he have solutions to the problems that I care about? So ultimately, it's all up to you, because I'm going to do my part, and we're going to find out if you're going to do your part. If the people across the country would simply pass this information on, tell them where to go when we provide you with the resources, mention to your family and your friends, you need to just pay attention for 15 minutes, a half an hour, and see what you think. Is this the type of person that you would like to determine what happens with our government? So what should happen with our government? Here's the current situation as I see it. Many people complain about what's happening. We have many groups that are concerned about certain issues like the Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms, for example, or freedom of speech, or what's happening with their religious rights, as they call them, here in the United States. What about the situation with immigration? All these issues oftentimes are controlled by people who have governmental offices, people who you or someone like you voted to have serve in office, or someone who's been appointed by those people who you've elected. The problem that we have here in the United States, and we have it at the local level, we have it at certainly the county, the state, and the national level, is that once we elect or appoint someone to fill an office, we simply allow them to fill out their term, whether it's 2 years or 4 years or 6 years or whatever it is, and we simply say there's nothing we can do until it comes time for another election. You know, that's a crazy way of thinking. Why? Because when people start to do something wrong, and you feel as though there's nothing you can do about it, you're forced to live with the consequences of what these people have chosen for you. And I'll give you an example. If you look at the people who are determining various gun laws, as they're called, I'm here in New York State. So in New York State, we have a governor who decides that even though the law says that the people are supposed to have a time period in order to comment before a law is put into effect, he simply says, we've talked enough about this. I'm not going to do that. We're simply going to pass this law. And I'm referring to what's called the SAFE Act, which really only makes criminals safe here in New York State. But what do we do about it? We object. You know, maybe we'll go to court. And where does that court case go to? Some judge who was appointed or perhaps even elected, and he's part of the political system. He's part of a group because virtually all judges, except at the lower level, are attorneys. We know that attorneys make their money because there's conflict and controversy. And so sometimes it's really important to ask ourselves who benefits by the decisions that are made by judges and other officials within the system. So we have a political system that makes it difficult for the good, decent citizen to run. And why is that? Because if he doesn't build alliances with people in the political environment who for years have been doing things other than the way that they're prescribed by law, if he's not willing to do that, he won't be allowed to continue to run because they won't support him. So when you stop and you think about it, the very best way to choose someone is to have the most independent person possible that doesn't have to respond to others who they might be indebted to for supporting them in the past. So if we don't go according to the typical way the political system is run is it possible for us to succeed if we want to go it on our own? Well, it is. And there are requirements, for example, for the presidency that you find right in the Constitution of the United States. But what has happened is individual states have decided they're going to make more requirements than what's listed in the Constitution itself. I might as well come right down to it. I believe that we need to go back to the foundation of the country. We need to go back to the principles which really were based on Christian principles. Often Scripture can be seen that covers whatever issue that we're talking about. But in addition to that, we have a Constitution that we say is the foundation of our government. And yet it's ignored. It has been ignored here by many officials in this state. And so it's up to us to tell those officials that we're not going to allow them to infringe upon the rights that you and I already have by virtue of them being confirmed and listed in the Constitution of the United States, or in some cases, in state constitutions. But as long as officials can violate these laws and principles, they'll continue to do so. So what are we going to do about it? The only thing that I'm going to do, if you decide I should be the president, is I am going to give you the opportunity to take back this governmental process and make it honest once more. So if anyone thinks that someone like Mr. Trump or Mrs. Clinton is going to run out there and give you the ability to control what your country does, I think if you look at the people supporting many of those candidates, or either of those candidates, you'll find that these are people who more want to see them change things rather than to take on the responsibility that we, the people, ultimately have, and for us to make sure that they're changed. Those officials, as I mentioned before, are public servants. And when they violate the agreement that they have with us, which is their oath of office, and it's a contract with us, this is what they say that they're going to do and live up to. And if we don't hold their feet to the fire and make them do that, then shame on us, and the collapse of a nation is really on our shoulders rather than exclusively on theirs. What can the people really do? When someone has a contract with you, and in this case it's their oath of office, which indicates that they will support and defend the Constitution of the United States, for example, when a person who claims to be President of the United States does things counter to what the Constitution says he's supposed to do, which the Constitution, by the way, says that he is supposed to ensure that the laws are faithfully executed. Now, when he decides not to do that, when he decides to aid people who are in the country illegally, he's violating the law. And then when he does things like goes to court and tries to punish and hinder a state like Arizona from keeping their own state safe from illegal immigrants who are coming across the border and sometimes even, violently killing, raping, and committing all different kinds of crime there in their state. And we have someone who sits in the Oval Office of the United States, and Arizona has to listen to reasons why they can't keep their state free and ultimately be told they don't have the right to enforce immigration law? This is not only illegal, It's morally objectionable, to say the least. And yet, what do? We allow that individual to continue in office. But there's one major reason that I'm running, probably above all others. That major reason is that currently in the United States, we have officials who are ignoring a very, very important group that's named right in the United States Constitution. Now, many of you haven't got a clue of what I'm talking about. But the reality is that there are two groups named in the Constitution, specifically named to receive its benefits. Two groups named as the object of all the Constitution provides and all this nation is to provide. So I'm going to tell you right now who that is. And as soon as I say it, I think you're going to recognize it. The Constitution says we, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. And it goes on to say, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Those two groups, ourselves and our posterity, are the groups that are named as the object of all this nation does. And yet that second group, our posterity, is not only being ignored, it is being persecuted and allowed to be destroyed before our very eyes. No nation, no people can ever be honorable when they disregard another group that is named alongside them in a founding document of their nation, such as our Constitution. So who specifically is your posterity? Who is this our posterity that the Constitution talks about? Your posterity is all your descendants until the end of time. It is your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, and their children. It is the vision that those who founded this nation were saying that this government is not just for the people who are here now, but it's my descendants far into the future who are supposed to benefit from the sacrifices that I make now. I've written the book, The Right of Rights, that goes into that issue further. And we use historical documents in order to support the fact that the Constitution specifically names our posterity who are our unborn descendants. And if that is true, and you will find, if you're not up on it right now, do the research. But the reality is that we're allowing the extermination, the killing of our unborn descendants in spite of the fact that they're named right alongside us in the U.S. Constitution. Why is it important to me? Because I've taken an oath to support and defend the Constitution on a number of occasions. And that actually means something to me. And I served in Vietnam, and men did not return from Vietnam, and they expected something from us. Those of us who did return, they expected us to take care of their country and to ensure that their descendants, their posterity, as named in the U.S. Constitution, would benefit from their sacrifice. And I promise you this, I am not going to forget them, those heroes that sacrificed for us and continue to sacrifice in various parts around the world. And I'm not going to forget their descendants. The reality is, if you won't care, no matter what I say, has very little impact. We have to want to be honorable people. We have to want to seek the truth and live by the truth if we're going to have an honorable nation. I want an honorable nation. I think you want an honorable nation. So I'm running for this office for the main purpose of trying to get our government officials to become honorable people. I've spoken to many of them, even on this issue about our posterity. And they give me answers like, well, I'm really into finances. I'm a business person. I can't be involved in that. They take an oath to support and defend the United States Constitution, and they won't even protect and defend those who are named right alongside ourselves. I'm not going to let that rest. And those politicians, those people currently serving in office, who, in my opinion, no longer hold that office because they have violated their oath of office, their contract with us. But I will not rest until they're removed physically from their offices and we get honorable people in order to fill those offices. There are many things I'd like to cover, but I know our attention span isn't all that long. So what we're going to do is we're going to take many of the issues that are important in this particular election, and we're going to cover them in short segments so you know where I stand, and I think I stand where most of you stand. And if you find that to be true, and sometimes, yes, it will cause you to have to wrestle with your soul, but we're talking about the soul of a country here. We could be the most wealthy nation in the world and people would say, wow, what a success. But the reality is that you and I know that we could have that success and be very, very poor when it comes to our moral position and being able to look at ourselves and see what I would call an honorable person. Our sons and our daughters certainly need economic development. They need to have a job. They need to be able to take care of their loved ones. But if we choose to do that in other than an honorable way, we might find that our success, that greed that causes us to go after only the dollar and dismiss many of the things that are happening and say, well, it's better because we're getting more money. You and I know that that attitude will lead us in a place where we do not want to go. So, if you want an honorable nation, if you want an opportunity to be able to say, we put a person in office because that is the person we wanted. We didn't have to choose a person who some political party gave us. If you want that, do your job, pay attention to what we're doing. We'll have information on this screen as to where to contact us, where to see our videos. Let us know what you think, and I will try to do the very best job for you. I'm Dan Devlin. We need to take care of each other, and we will become an honorable nation. God bless you all.